Yes. Food availability does not substitute for food sufficiency. You can have all the food in the world. If you don't know how to eat what you have, you will still suffer malnutrition. That is very clear. But we need to learn how to eat, and that's where this program makes a difference in our life. That's why it's so important for all of us. So we are saying that having known all of this is going to inspire us to be committed to the process that's going to help our children and to help our system. Now, what could be the objectives, therefore? The objective, strategic objective number 1 is to improve literacy of school-age children. That's a strategic objective. Strategic objective number 2, increase the use of health and dietary practices. What else would have made it better? Those are the kind of things that we shall be breaking down when we come to the field to work with you guys to ensure that if we are talking about improving literacy, what are we looking at? We're looking at the performance of the child at the end of the school term. Isn't that right? That may be the endpoint analysis. But the on-course analysis is from when the child comes home, what does the child do with his or her time when they come home? Do we give them the opportunity to read at home? Do they have the facilities even to read? I tell you something. I went visiting a school and discovered that 90% of the children who sit in class don't own textbooks. Is that true or false? That's true. 90% don't have textbooks, no access to textbooks. Which means that they cannot even know beyond what the teacher has given them. That in itself is a defect. I also even realized that out of the few who have textbooks, very few are helped to study at home. They close, they go home, they dump their bags, they come to school the next day, nothing has happened. Now, our commitment shall be helping us to identify those elements we can use to make education better for our children. How can we help them to access textbooks, to access information? In other parts of the world, nowadays, you take a primary school child and the child is telling you about, I'm going online. But here, our children have not even seen it. They don't even know what it's like. So what we're trying to do is, we are hoping that together with you and the opportunity the US government is offering us through this program, we can arrive at helping our children to get to that level where they know beyond the things they are taught in classroom. Because if I say beyond, it is because the teachers are also limited to the needs that they have. They use what they have. And if you think, if we can improve on the quality of the teacher, then it makes all the difference. That's why TTC starting is here at this meeting. That's one of our key partners in this whole operation, to ensure that the teacher is prepared in a way that helps the children to become more performant, to become strong, to become really satisfied with education. What we're trying to do there is, we want to increase knowledge in children of health and sanitation. What kind of environment should they really study in? That alone will also influence their knowledge on what kind of homes should we live in. And that will be a big help. You know, knowledge is a big treasure. Once somebody has it, you can't take it away from them. And once somebody uses it, it propels the person to greater heights. We are looking at also the possibility of increasing access to water and sanitation services. Increasing access to water and sanitation services. I asked somebody the other day, is somebody here from Jakiri? Is there anybody here from Jakiri? Yes. Yeah, GS Bear. GS Bear. Eh? Okay. There is a standpipe in GS Wasi there. I have never known that standpipe to flow. Is that right? But the day that I asked to know if there was water in the school, the answer I got was yes. Because there's a standpipe. But the standpipe has never flowed to this day. If I'm wrong, somebody should challenge me. Now, the reason is that maybe the guy who did the water did not do it well. It begins from there. The survey at the catchment was not properly done. The calculation of the water level, the yields, what we call the yield per second, because we measure the quantities vis-a-vis the population level. If there are 3,000 people in this village and the yield is 3,000 cubic meters a minute or 2,000 a minute, 100 a minute, how many cubic meters do you need to meet a community of 3,000 people where one human being is estimated per day to consume 60 liters of water? Those calculations are still happening. At the same time, I work with the Service for Hydraulic Engineering at the name of the Diocese of Kumbu, which means that by the time you are going into the field, you have to have all of those in mind. But this is a standpipe in a school that is not working. And somebody tells you there is a standpipe. What we are saying is that we are trying to move away from deceit and to face reality. Is that right? Water is a resource that is very necessary for any school situation, any school environment, and it is important because if you bring children food and they can't wash their hands before eating, what help is that? Because of this, recycling the germs they are collecting from the dirt on the ground and eventually they fall sick. So what we're trying to do also is to introduce an element that will ensure that there is actually water in the schools. Is that right? Yes. That there is water in the school, serviceable water in the schools, water that can be used by the children for washing of hands, for cooking of their food, for taking care of their gardens, for taking care of their classrooms, for ensuring that their toilets are clean and everything. If you had a child who came back from school knowing all of that, would your house not be better? Your house will be better, of course. Increase production and the use of nutritive foods. We are not only going to know, but to help the children to know how to grow them, to know how to grow carrots, for example, to know how to grow green beans, for example, to know how to grow cabbage, to know how to grow lettuce. That knowledge is so helpful because one of the things that aggravates poverty in our situation is that most people don't even have backyard gardens from where they can go to harvest vegetables. Is that true of us? Yes, most of our people don't have backyard gardens. And therefore, once we are able to encourage production, we'll be facilitating the ownership of such production facilities that can ensure the availability of resources like vegetables and fruits that are useful for the body. At this stage, I think it gives you in a small nutshell what the new program is all about. I've said the emphasis is on literacy. Is that right? Yes. There is still food, but literacy is important. Food is there to support literacy. Is that right? Yes. So we are going to be thinking, when we get into the workshops, into the different workshop groups, how we shall ensure that a system like the one I tried to explain to you works. How we shall ensure that it is fruitful to our children. But before we do that, we're thinking that it's important for us to do a quick review of the last program. You were all part of the last program. Some of you may be new, but majority of you were part of the just ended McGovern-Dole program. We would like that you take notes, because when you take note now, we shall break you into your workshops to respond to this short thing that you see on the board. What were the strengths of the program? What were the things that you found as a strong point of the 2000 program? What were the strengths of that program? The things that made the program really good, that made it really very attractive, that made you think it is so relevant for our children and for our communities. What is it that were the real strong points? Now, what were the weaknesses? Those things that make the program, although it finds that, well, as long as this one is there, therefore you know what you find. What were the weaknesses? What were the weaknesses of the program?